It's every cave diver's dream to find something like this.
My name's Mark. I'm a rope access technician. So anything from cleaning and maintenance to rope access, defect surveys of buildings, and I'm a cave photographer.
Hey Jess, can you come further to my left please? A little more, a little more. That's perfect.
I first saw Christine when she was doing a lecture at Hidden Earth in 2015. And she was doing it on the caves of Croatia, and on screen I saw this beautiful clear blue sump that they were diving and figured that's probably something I will never do.
I'm Rick, I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a diver, I'm a dad, I've got 2 kids, and I'm a cave diver, and I'm a dry caver nowadays as well. So I heard about this project through Christine. I helped carrying stuff. It was a small team, it was a lot of effort, it was good on my stamina.
I'm Ash Hiscock, I'm a philosophy student at Sheffield University. I'm involved in the project because I knew Christine because she was my mentor when I started cave diving in the CDG. I've been cave diving and caving now for 6 or 7 years. I'm involved in active exploration all over Europe, including the UK.
My name's Rich Walker and I'm a scuba diving instructor. I got into this project because I know Maurizio, who runs Kanica Dive Centre. This is a place that I use for so much of my technical diving training, and he'd found out about this cave up near Rijeka. I knew that Christine had been there with a couple other people, and when she came back from that project she was fairly adamant that she wanted to go back and carry on again.
My name is Robbie. I'm from Croatia. My job is like a dive master in Kanica Dive Center. I met Christine a few years ago. She asked the owner of the diving center, Maurizio, if we can help Christine in her project in Fugine. And of course we decide to help Christine with all necessary permits, documents, with all necessary logistics.
I was quite surprised when I got a phone call from her asking if I'd be prepared to come and do some media and stills in another project that she had in Croatia.
I'm Chris and I'm a paramedic. I also work offshore as a dive medic. I've been working on the Licanke project now for about 4 years. A couple of years ago, a few of us came out on the project up near Rijeka and we visited a cave called Izvor Licanke. This cave is the water source for the local town of Fugine, and also they use the water for hydropower. In the 1990s, Frank Vassar, he and his friends, they dived the first sump, which is only shallow, it's 40 metres long, a couple of metres deep. They emerged into some very big and significant dry cave. There were lots of lakes, lots of big boulder climbs, and they explored almost 400 metres of this dry passage. They came across a second sump, a submerged bit of passage. He explored the cave down to a depth of 36 metres in really cold water, so he did a really good job. But I spoke to Frank and said, what happens in this cave? Is it still continuing? And he said, yeah, sure, you know. Go take a look. So we did. We did a couple of reconnaissance trips and then we put a team together to go and push the second sump.
I was quite excited to do this. I checked in my diary, I cleared my dates and pretty much agreed to do everything when Christine dropped the bombshell that there was one slight snag. I would have to learn to cave dive. We started off with a couple of pool dives, and at that point Christine really learnt just what a Bambi on ice I was in the water. She got stuck in with trying to teach me my buoyancy, and the more skills I learned and the more that we were doing, the more I found that I was actually feeling quite relaxed and quite happy to be in the water, which was something I wasn't really sure that I would achieve. We soon progressed to quarry diving, which was another ball game entirely, and I was really nervous. Having this instruction and doing the cave diving and learning a completely new set of skills, and the skills themselves I found were far more reassuring than the paddy training I'd had. I really started to get to grips with being underwater and really started to feel quite comfortable about it. The big day arrived very quickly and we were over in Croatia. I didn't have time to really think about the cave diving side of things. I was very busy fettling my camera gear, making sure that everything worked, everything was charged. I got into the sump pool and Rich went through the dive plan with me. And very quickly we were dumping our gas and going into the sump. I was constantly thinking to myself, right, add air, small fin kicks, don't disturb the silt, don't mess up anything. And before I knew it, I was doing this stuff automatically and just marvelling of what was in front of me. It's very much as I'd imagine being weightless in space would be, and just floating and drifting through the cave passage. It really is a phenomenal experience.
It is cold, anywhere between 6 and 7 degrees depending on the time of year, so we figured that using thick wetsuits was the way forward to help us with the dry caving beyond.
When I originally came out to the project, I was acting as a support diver and general caver. I dropped off some deco bottles in sump too, but mostly I just carried gear through the cave.
We had a whole bunch of bags. Every bag had 1 or 2 bottles. A short dive, and then it opens up to be a massive cave. What was really cool is there's lakes in there, there's rivers in there.
We had to find a way of transporting all the heavy bottles through the lakes without dropping them and losing them. We came up with the idea of using a life raft built by Halcyon, and so we blew this up, attached it to a scooter and ferried the stuff across the lakes. And this was really efficient and it saved us a lot of time.
The group was bigger, the same team from the first year plus 2 more professional guys.
We had Ashley, we had Mark, we had Rick, and myself and Christine working to try and extend this cave.
And of course, there was much more stuff, stages, dry tubes, scooters, food.
On the way in we took bags. We were quite careful because all the cylinders have to be keep intact, don't lose any gas.
These boulders are the size of houses and they move, so we had to be super careful when carrying big heavy bottles on your back.
The water's quite cold. The moment you start moving your gear through the cave, you get hot, very hot. And then we have to go climb with the gear as well.
How they can bring all this from the entrance to the end of the cave.
When we transported all the equipment, it took us 2 days because we were shooting video and taking photographs as well, helped by Mark. And the 3rd day was the day when we were going to actually explore the new cave.
Once we get the bottles to the second sump, we have to start kitting up, setting up the cameras, setting up the video, setting up the lighting. The first job was to put Ashley into the sump to take a look at the line.
I dropped into the sump and it just didn't mess about. You swim along a nice little passage at about 5 or 6 metres depth and then straight down a shaft.
My job really on the project was to survey the cave so that when we put the new line in, I would then mark what direction the line was going, how far we went into the cave and how deep the cave was going.
The last time we dived in this sump, the line was very, very loose. We were a little bit worried about it in poor visibility.
We could see all the way across the cave. It was much, much bigger than we'd anticipated.
We were using trimix, which is a mixture of helium, nitrogen and oxygen. The helium enables us to go deeper in the cave with a clear head.
Christine found the end of the line that we'd laid last year, tied into it and continued on the dive.
The
The water's about 7 degrees and we spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours diving the second sump. Took me a couple of seconds to tie the new line in, and that's where the real excitement starts, because I swam around the corner. Richard had his survey notes out ready to map the new cave.
The cave carried on at around 40 to 50 metres in depth.
It was 12 metres wide, easily 8 metres high, crystal clear, very easy to find the way on. It's just one big tunnel.
There were some beautiful sand dunes, some quite steep gravel slopes and some big open passageways. Very, very big cave, kind of pale walls, crystal clear water. It was a very, very beautiful cave.
We were worried that the cave was going to go really deep. The last thing we want is the cave to go too deep, because it means more gas, more bottles and more logistics.
After about 30 minutes or so of laying line in this cave, we decided that we'd reached the limit of our gas and we needed to turn around and start to head for home again.
There was really no way of us knowing how long the guys were going to be in the water for.
At this point we go through quite a complicated, poor visibility section of the cave.
And then we waited and then waited and waited and waited, and we expected them back for about 10 minutes already, 15 minutes.
You have to follow the line very closely so as not to lose it and therefore not being able to find your way out.
I was starting to get a little bit nervous and thinking, surely there must be a sign of them soon.
It was at this point we found the line had broken.
I couldn't see much at all, but the line felt very loose in my hand.
The line had broken between myself and Christine, which meant that I had no continuous line to the surface.
I looked behind me and all I could see was this frayed end of this very, very thin line.
So what I did was go back to what you're always trained to do as a cave diver, and you take out a small spool of line and you tie it to the nearest rock that you can find, and then you start searching and you start looking and looking for either the way out or the other end of the line that is not broken.
The key is not to panic and just do what you're trained to do, but I'd be lying if I said that we weren't just a little bit concerned, at least for a couple of minutes.
About 2 minutes later I came across Christine, who had also done exactly the same thing. She tied in her reel and was searching around looking for me.
There's no easy rescue from somewhere like this. The only way out if you have a problem is self-rescue, really. So we had to be super careful and help each other, work as a team.
And then after a while the light came through. That was kind of relief. It was nice to see them back.
Both of them looked pretty excited. They'd laid out a lot of reel. They weren't quite sure how much.
Everybody was excited to hear, how did that passage go? Did it go up? Did it go down?
Ashley worked out what line was laid and came to 99 metres. Would you believe it? 99. We had a few beers, I can tell you, that night.
It's really hard planning an exploration dive because you don't know what the cave is going to do. Nobody has ever been there before, so we don't know how deep it will go. We don't know if it will surface in a dry chamber just around the corner.
I asked Christine if I could come again this year, because I knew this project would continue to go.
After the project in 2017, we realised that carrying cylinders into the cave that we would use on every dive was becoming a logistical problem.
I asked Christine if I can join in the team this year. So she said, of course, if you want to do that, why not?
So this year we made the switch to rebreathers. This provides several benefits over the open circuit we were previously using. Because open circuit, you use it once, it's gone.
Normal scuba diving, you take a breath from the cylinder and then you blow it out into the water and you lose that gas. With a rebreather, you basically recirculate that gas, so it's very, very efficient.
In 2017, Richard and I took 6 bottles each, and we had a couple of decompression bottles each. So we were quite fully laden. We were carrying probably as much as we really should. It was starting to get a little bit expensive, a lot of effort for not a lot of gain, we did lay 99 metres of line. The maximum depth was 50 metres, but it was getting to the stage where the dives were getting longer, the dives were getting deeper.
The downsides to rebreathers in general are that they're quite complex pieces of equipment.
It was a steep learning curve. I said I'd never go to a rebreather unless I absolutely had to, and I got to the stage where this cave meant that I absolutely had to.
When we took the rebreathers into the cave, because they're a slightly different technology, the way that they're put together, the way that they're built, means that they're quite a lot more sensitive. They have electronics in them. They have things called counter lungs, which are basically bags of air that you breathe from. And if any of this stuff gets damaged, that rebreather is out of action.
So we transported them through the cave by wearing them and keeping them on our backs the whole way. So this is a bit like caving, which is pretty difficult anyway, but with a really high sort of 40 kilograms around the top of your body, messing with your centre of gravity and just making every action you do twice as difficult.
Christine and I did a very, very simple dive to the end of our line. We were planning to go further, but unfortunately the thermal problems got the better of us because my dry suit leaked.
Rich had hired a suit inflation bottle, and unbeknown to him, somebody had handed the bottle back into the dive centre full of water and not told them. So it was half full of water, and it wasn't until he tried to add gas to his dry suit to keep him warm that he started to notice a leak in his suit. He was actually adding water to his suit instead of gas, so instead of getting warmer, he was getting colder. He thumbed the dive at the end of our 2017 line, and understandably, I was devastated. I didn't realise what the problem was. If a diver ends the dive, it's non-negotiable, but I can't pretend that I wasn't disappointed. The prospect of a long decompression in 7 degrees of water in a flooded suit is not desirable and can actually reduce the effectiveness of the decompression, so he absolutely made the right decision. He was freezing.
I've had enough flooded suit to know what happens.
You're soaked.
I am. I've got puddles up to my knees.
Oh.
So how was it, Rich?
Not too bad, actually. The fizz is not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's a bit smoky, but you can see what you're doing. It's a big passage, though. Once you get past the kind of down slope, I can't see the roof or the opposite wall most of the time. White sandy floor. Kind of goes between kind of sandbanks and stuff like that, and goes up from boulder piles, drops down the other side again, back to the sandy banks. So no, it's a nice cave.
But we did check everything, make sure that the line was intact, and we had a clear shot to extend the line on the next day.
I then planned a dive with Ash. My rebreather had been acting up, and we're not sure why, but it was pushing too much oxygen into the breathing loop at depth. We'd stripped it down, replaced some parts, and once I was in the sump pool, it was hardly giving me any oxygen at all, so there was clearly a major problem.
The rebreathers that me and Christine both use, KISS rebreathers, actually come with a printed on bit that very simply says, "Warning, this machine will kill you."
It killed me to thumb the dive in the sump pool, but this sort of problem had the potential to actually kill me, so I handed the dive over to Ash.
It's this huge crystal clear cave. You swim in for a little bit, you drop down the shaft, there's no messing about, you get straight to the depth and you crack on with it. But the passage formation in there, it was incredible, one of the best dives I've ever done.
It's every cave diver's dream to find something like this. There can't be many places left on this planet that are completely unexplored.
Our final dive was to extend the line that had been placed by Ash. We really wanted to push this out as much as we could. This was the last dive that we had the opportunity to do on the project. Christine and I went in. We got to the end of Ashley's line, which was an epic piece of line laying. It went on for what felt like miles, but it was actually a couple of 100 metres.
The amazing thing about caves is that you literally do not know what is there. Before you go there, you have to be there, you have to get into the dive kit, you have to go underground.
You're always worried about breaking the rebreather, you're always worried about breaking yourself.
Everything you touch could break and is sharp as hell.
It's not pleasant. We tied in our reel and we continued to move on through the cave.
Being the first woman to go to places, I can't even count now. I think I've probably lost count of the number of places I've been where I've been the first woman there, but that's not important to me. What's important to me is to be the first person to go there. That's really what drives me, and I know it's what drives the rest of the team.
Licanke is a very exciting project for me.
We were in the water for 2.5 hours in 6 degrees.
I wholly believe that we are in the master cave for the whole area.
I don't think this cave shows any sign of stopping anytime soon, and I think we definitely need to come back and continue pushing it.
We need to come back.